Rivering top 2 is pretty interesting. I think I'm going to pull out the bazooka here for it. Flopping a set, SPR under 1. Probably going to bluff catch. Yeah, just going to bluff catch facing this 75% pot size bet. Subscribe now to a front row seat for expert hand analysis and world-class cash game strategy. Ace 7 of diamonds in the big blind. Facing a small blind open, going to be 3-betting. Flopping the backdoor nut flush draw. I believe I'm going to start out by betting a 3rd and following up on turns where we realize additional equity. Our villain is, on the more passive side. The tray connects with the bottom straight draws, but, it doesn't really change very much. So checking back, facing half on the river here. I think that villain can do this with some mergy hands, like maybe a 6. I do have some value that I bet the flop with and then check behind, then raise the river. Probably overpairs as well as hands like ace jack plus. So I think I'm just going to go for a river raise here with the ace 7 and try to target villains like 6x, maybe pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. not trying to fold out a set. Yeesh. Opening with ace jack off from the hijack. Small blind flatting, definitely on more of the white belt side. King 7 deuce rainbow. Gonna start out betting a 3rd. I think that, this is essentially kind of a value bet. I think we can get called by many worse hands. Queen jack off, jack 10 off, queen 10 off, turn 6, river 7. Not really changing a ton about the board. I expect villains, 7x to bet big. So facing a small bet, I think it's just a pretty slam dunk call, assuming that we get called wide on the flop. 2 9s in the big blind. Facing our white belt friend. Going to be 3-betting them, and if they so choose to jam, then we'll be here for it. Flopping a set, SPR under 1. Just going to check and potentially let villain stick the money in. Once their turn is a 3 straight, villain has a lot of pair plus draws that I think we can get called by. So, yeah, gonna put the money in. And villain's drawing dead. Ace 9 of diamonds. Gonna start out with a 3-bet, playing 3-handed here. Ace high flop. Not the worst. So pretty good board. Could better check. I think I'm going to check behind having the backdoor nut flush draw. Turn, flush completer. It gets kind of dicey as to, whether or not I can go 2 streets at this point. I think I'd be targeting hands like 8s, 9s, 7s that may have a club. I don't know that those hands call the turn if they don't have a club. So I think my plan is to play for 1 big bet on the river. Rivering top 2 is pretty interesting. I think I'm going to pull out the bazooka here on this run out, and now try to target ace X, potentially some like sticky bluff catchers once I have top 2. I don't think I have a ton of hands that want to take this line, a ton of natural value. So yeah, just going to go for it. Unfortunately, villain dodged the bazooka. So villain opening is a white belt. Going to do a don't try this at home type of maneuver here, flatting from the small blind. Typically not a thing, but I desperately attempt to get in the mix versus white belts as often as possible. These types of hands, small pocket pairs, tend to play pretty well. 7-7-9, not the best of flops, not the worst of flops. Certainly going to start out by calling half with my pair. It's pretty dicey because we can get counterfeit by a 9, and now we can get counterfeit by an 8. Villain bets a turn, then we're just going to fold, but thankfully they check behind. Queen on the river, probably going to bluff catch just going to bluff catch facing this 75% pot size bet. They're really just repping like queen. There you go. King 7 suited. Certainly going to be worth an ISO if we get the chance. And we do. So going to raise to $40. Mr. what I presume to be a white belt for posting in the hijack. Top pair is a good hand. Probably want to play for at least a couple of bets and potentially all the money. Definitely could see myself betting the turn. Actually, it's hard to go two streets with King 7, but now that I think about it, yeah, I probably should have bet the turn. Facing half pot on the river on this run out, considering whether to jam or raise small, and just going to go for the small raise here. I think it's probably still too thin to jam, but yeah, villain called, so ace 4 off. Going to be one of the worst hands that I open with, blind versus blind, but it is a hand that I open with. Flopping gut shot and overcard. Certainly going to start out by betting. I think, we can, again, get called by worse when we start out with a third. So it's almost like a value bet. I don't expect villain to fold a ton, considering all their overcards have some kind of equity. Facing a third, we're just going to be calling. Probably calling a bet on the river too. I think the hands that they bet for value are a turn or river, jack or 10. I don't think they should have a ton of 3x because of them not raising the flop, although they could probably have some slow played tray x. But yeah, I think their value range is just a little too thin here to fold. Yeah, that'll do it. Ace king on the button, facing multiple limpers. Gonna raise it up. Okay, so facing a relatively small 3-bet. I guess it is 15 big blinds, so it's a little bit bigger than usual, but my ISO is bigger than normal, so it makes some sense. We're also a little bit deeper than normal as well. Certainly going to be putting in the 4-bet with ace king. Ace king is a good hand, one that merits putting some monies in the pot. And if villain does, in fact, jam, we will be calling. Here we go. Ace. 7-5 suited. Certainly going to be good enough to defend with facing a hijack open. Flopping bottom 2 is nice. If villain bets, we'll certainly check raise. On the 4, I believe we're just going to overbet. Target villains, queen jacks, queen 10s, jacks, 10s, 9s, those types of hands. Pretty bad river, but I still think our hand is good enough to value bet. We should have more flushes than villain because they didn't c-bet the flop. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to bet, and if villain raises, I think we have to fold out. I don't really think we have much of a choice. We just have a bunch of flushes that we can defend with, so don't need to defend with 2 pair. All right, so jacks gonna be 3-betting, facing low jack open. We'll be defending if the low jack does 4-bet, but not jamming. I think I probably would have some natural traps here, like aces, kings, and potentially ace king off. This pre-flop scenario is one of the tighter pre-flop situations that you'll encounter low jack versus hijack. 18 big blind 4-bet. Can't really do much but call. Flopping an overpair is nice. Probably just going broke now, but we'll have to see based on the run out. Half pot. Definitely going to start out just by calling. Turn ace is really bad. Ace queen and ace king are now top pair. That's not the greatest of turns, I think. Yeah. Just gonna fold if villain bets and certainly checking behind, but GG. 9-7 of clubs, certainly good enough to defend with in the big blind, facing hijack open. Maybe it'll fare better than our 7-5. Okay, well, we have top pair with the backdoor flush draw, so good start. Facing over half pot size bet, just gonna check call, nothing to do. Can't fold top pair, can't really check raise top pair in this situation. King on the turn is, you know, they're gonna bet the king a lot, but I don't know that it's like ultra threatening. Jack on the river, once again, it kind of turns my second pair into third pair. Facing bet versus hijack here on this run out. I think I'm just going to fold. I would call the flop with a bunch of king X that has backdoors. Man. Yeah, I just don't think I'm going to be able to defend a ton on this run out. So, yeah. Ace deuce of spades. Facing button open. Certainly going to be good enough to defend the big blind with. Flopping bottom pair with a gut shot. Again, good enough to defend facing a c-bet with. Villain checks behind. Now we're just going to be probably bluff catching a lot of different runouts. Facing a third, very elementary call. Flush completing river. Looks a little threatening, but not super threatening because I think villains do bet a lot of their flush draws on the flop. Small bet, good price. Bluff catch city. King jack suited. Small blind versus big blind. Certainly good enough to open with. Good enough to call a 3-bet with. Top pair. Jack kicker. Betting for value. Gonna check the turn. And based on what villain does, kind of figure out what I'm gonna do. So if villain bets the turn, we're just gonna check call and then check rivers. If villain were to check behind, we'd just value bet rivers, I believe. Trying to target like ace high type hands. On 5-5-7-7, yeah, tough for villain to bet an amount that I'm not going to call there. So nice check. Ace deuce of hearts, opening the cutoff. White belt calls on the button. Small blind squeezes to 13 big blinds. Certainly not folding ace deuce suited. It's going to play quite well multi-way, especially if our white belt friend gets involved from the button. So it's just call the 3-bet and hope to flop something good. That appears to be something good. Too good, in fact, I think, to bet multi-way. Let's give our white belt friend a chance to put some money in the pot. SPR is around 2, so we can get the money in kind of however we want. Ace on the turn should be good for betting, but I have an ace, so I block them from having an ace, which is not great. The small blind betting half pot I think is quite nice. Now we can call and, you know, call any river. Board pairs, if they have a boat, they have a boat. Facing check though, just gonna slam it in and hope to get bluff caught by ace queen, something like that. Ace king, ace queen type hands. Alas. What was your key takeaway from today's episode? Drop a comment down below and let us know.
This is Chasing Poker Greatness with your host, Brad Wilson. Coach Brad approved. Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.